Welcome to Noel's Good Friends Show. I'm your host, Noel. It's a show where I invite my friends to talk about friendship, how to meet new people, and how to be a good friend. Today's episode is called Party Friends, and it's all about meeting friends at parties and through nightlife. Today, I'm joined by a competition-winning mixologist, an event curator, and a very, very good friend. Please welcome Ty.
Hey,
Hey, Ty,
what's
welcome
up?
to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Since it's your first time on the show, I would usually like to introduce somebody through how we met. So, my first question for you is actually, what is your earliest memories of you and I meeting?
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the first time we met was actually at my birthday brunch,
Mhm.
almost 2 years ago through
Oh my
through our mutual
God.
friend, Brandon.
Yes.
My birthday always falls on Pride weekend in New York City, so decided to host the brunch open to all, and that was actually my very first unofficial hosting gig. Yeah,
Oh.
that's where it all turned.
Wow. So it's like kind of like the pre version of like the events you curated before that. Actually, on my end, was that before or after your half marathon brunch?
That was after actually. Okay, so yeah.
So yeah, we
Oh,
might
like
have met even
okay, yeah,
before that.
yeah,
Yeah,
okay, yeah.
yeah.
It was like 2 months before. Yeah, okay,
Okay, cool,
okay.
cool. Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, yeah.
yes, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
yes,
So my memory, I mean, and I think because it was like such a big event, so we barely interacted then. But that was like my
right,
first
yeah,
time actually just like seeing you.
yeah, yeah.
Um, Brandon, who by the time this airs has been a guest on the show. But yeah, he came up to town and told me, "Oh, my friend Ty has a brunch for his to celebrate him finishing. Was it the full or the half marathon?
It was a half, yeah,
Okay, the half
definitely half.
marathon.
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, and it was like a brunch, and we kind of like, just spoke, probably just said hi to each other. And then slowly, as Brandon, visited the city over and over again, we keep running into each other until eventually kind of cultivating our own unique friendship, which we'll get into later on. Like I said, today's episode is all about party friends and what it means to meet people through nightlife. When did you start going to parties, and what were your earliest experiences at parties?
Honestly, I started going to parties probably like just when I was in college. I remember going to this real rundown house party. It was like in the basement. This is why I actually don't drink vodka anymore for this because I'm just scarred from like having like cheap jungle juice. I remember one night I did like a keg stand, um, and I barely drink beer now too, probably for that reason.
Well, you mixed
But
beer and vodka
I
that
did,
night?
yeah.
Oh,
I was mixing everything, yeah. So I definitely threw up that night. Not my happiest moment, but I've learned from that.
yeah, that sounds like a classic kind of like college. And that's probably one of your earliest parties. You didn't know how to kind of what to drink together kind of thing.
Right, exactly. It didn't know
Mm.
to not mix. Just I was just like happy to like be there.
Right, right. Like I'll take anything. Like I'll
Right.
drink anything you put in front of me. I didn't really party until I was in college. You know what I mean? And so I went to like this school that was in like, one of those college towns. It was in the Eastern Shore of Maryland. And I think, when there's not a lot going on at the place that you're at, I think people start getting really creative about like what they make out of like the space. One of my most iconic nights of partying in college was it was like Friday night, and me and this girl who I who like lived in the room next to me. We were like, "Oh, do you have plans?" It's like, "Not really." And she was like, "Well, I have a bottle of Riesling in my fridge if you want to split it." And so we split like an entire bottle of Riesling, and we went from that to like a warehouse party. Somehow there was a warehouse party in like the middle of nowhere, Maryland. And then we went to like a frat party where I ran into a guy who I had a crush on, who had been like running into in like random places on campus, and I wasn't really sure if he was gay. And the minute that he saw me, he like walked up to me and he was like, "Noel, I had to ask you something." And he goes, "Are you gay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, I am. Are you?" And he goes, I'm not, but when I get drunk, I get gay thoughts. I was like, oh, okay. And so basically I roamed around the house until yes, he got his gay thoughts, and basically we ended up making out at the end of the night. So, that, so I don't know why I shared that story, but the point is that was like, my kind of earliest memories of partying in college. So that was a good time. What do you think makes nightlife a unique space for making friends?
I think nightlife is a unique space because I think that people are more open, and uninhibited. I think that it also like breaks down like social barriers. Like feel like rather than just like walking down the street and approaching someone, like if you're in a common space and you all came there for the same reasons, like have a good time, socialize.
Yeah, I think it's unique, right? Because I think nightlife is specifically a space where people come with an intention of having a good time, right? Like it's very few spaces in adult life. You have a very specific intention to enjoy yourself. It attracts people from different places, within a city, let's say. And coming together to kind of have this shared experience. I think the influence of like alcohol or some form of substance to kind of like loosen those kind of anxieties are also super duper helpful. So yeah, I think it brings something different to a way of meeting friends. Have you always been someone who makes friends easily while going out, or was that something that you learned over time?
I'll say, yeah, I think it's something that I've like grown into, and it wasn't not that it was like difficult before, but I think now that I kind of do it like as a profession, it requires me to like meet new people, engage, socialize, and also be like hospitable. So people or friends of friends are inviting people to my events, then I have to like, of course, like get to know them and introduce myself and put myself out there more.
Yeah, I mean, like, I guess I'm curious about that. Because your natural kind of like energy is you're quite, I wouldn't say, I don't know if you would agree with reserved, but you're kind of like very chill. But you do go into a lot of like environments where, obviously it's like a party, so it can get, really hyped up. How do you navigate like that juxtaposition between like your natural tendency?
Yeah, I probably am like a little reserved, and also I feel like I can be like very awkward too. But honestly, when you're like under the influence of a little alcohol, and I think that it just like will still just like force myself to like put myself out there more. And honestly, like feel like 9 times out of 10, it works for the better.
Yeah, I think more than anything, even with your kind of natural tendency, your willingness to put yourself out there is something I've always admired, to be honest. What's a memorable moment with a friend that you've had on a night out?
So I think that I've had some of the best like nights out or like very memorable nights in different cities. This specific time when I went to Miami, it was actually for Art Basel, and
Mm.
it was also a friend's birthday. Honestly, I didn't know anyone else on the trip besides the person whose birthday it was. And I just remember that we went out one night and it's just like a Lady Gaga meme with like club, another club, next place, no sleep. And it was that. And also, granted, that was like over 5 years ago, so I was much younger, had like a lot more stamina and could do that. But
Mm.
it was one of the best times I've ever had. From like going out in Wynwood to like everyday people, and then to like some Art Basel party in South Beach. And
Mm.
I think that actually Tiana Taylor was like hosting it or something. It
Did you get
was
to
a great
interact with
time.
her at all, or was she like far
No,
off? Yeah.
she was far off, yeah,
Mm.
but she was just like one person away from me, like, because there's someone who was like on the trip who was like her best friend, and I'm like, oh my
Mm.
gosh, the world is so small.
I think to me, some of my most memorable experiences, right, as like party as a means of deepening my relationship with a friend is my best friend Sharif, who refuses to be on the show because he's very, very shy. So I'll use this as an opportunity to talk about him. So he and I met during the pandemic, so everything was closed, but I was just a year older than him, but when things were starting to open and nightlife was coming back in the city, it gave us an opportunity to really connect. And I've never really had a party era in New York before that. So by that point, I got my own apartment. And so what I would do is like he'd come over, we'd get ready for the party, like maybe like pregame, and we'd like comment and kind of suggest outfits to each other. And I always felt like I could be braver and like wear something more unique and something that I wouldn't think to wear if he wasn't by my side. And then we'd go out to parties, and I always had this feeling that because I was like pulling up with my best friend, it always just felt like the minute we walked in, that I was like, oh, we are the hottest girls up in here.
Yes,
That
yes,
courage and um that support that you get from your best friend. And then at the very end of the night, like coming home and like we just be in bed and we're kind of like laying and kind of like, oh, did you see that guy? Da, da, da. And you'd
yeah,
like exchange your kind of
yeah. The
thoughts
recap,
about the night. Yeah, the recap of the
yeah,
night.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
those are some of like my most memorable experiences. Honestly, I think it was like a queer coming of age, through the parties in the cities. What is the most challenging part of navigating like a party or just a night out?
And I would say The most challenging part is probably like figuring out like if people actually trying to have a good time like in the moment or if they're actually trying to like foster like a genuine like,
Hmm.
friendship or connection.
Hmm.
Because I do think that you do have like those friends that are like for going out, and then you have like your close friends who you like confide in.
Most challenging part, I'd say, I'm very sensitive to energy. You know what I mean? So I think sometimes it could be a real challenge navigating like a party when I don't know, somebody has like a kind of a negative vibe or somebody gets way too drunk and gets a little aggressive. Like I'm very sensitive to that. But I think the way I circumvent that is I know when I've had enough of the party and I know like I think it's time for me to go home.
Yeah, that's something
Yeah.
that I think all my friends could attest to that. Like when I'm ready to go, I'm ready to go, and it doesn't really matter where I'm at. I will find a way home, and
Yeah.
if people are like trying to stay and it's not within like the next 10 minutes, they're also trying to leave. Then I'm like, okay, bye. I'll
So you
text
just
y'all
kind of
when I
dip
get home.
out like
Yeah, I usually do. I definitely always say bye. I rarely give like an Irish goodbye, but
yeah, I don't think
I'm
I've
just
ever
like
given an Irish goodbye before.
I don't think so either. And if I do,
Yeah.
it might have been I was leaving with someone and I didn't want them to know, but yeah,
Yeah,
or
yeah. So,
yeah, or I'll like touch
mhm.
base later and let them know. Okay.
Actually, yeah, that's a good one-off question. Like, when you go to a party, do you have a particular motive? Like, do you go there to, I often go to just dance or just to be there with my friends. But like, some people go to parties to meet somebody, to get lucky, or to kind of whatever, like drink away a tough week. Is there usually like an emotion that you bring as you go out, or do you just kind of let the night define itself?
Um, I feel like it depends. Yeah, I feel like I do usually like have like a motive of like what I'm trying to do in that particular night, but
Mhm.
yeah, most times it is honestly just like go out, dance, have a good time with friends. And if I do get like end up meeting someone, that's also a plus. And if I do end up getting lucky too, it's also like a plus. And I feel like sometimes I do also let the night define itself too.
Yeah. There's a stereotype that friends you meet from parties are surface level. Do you think that's true?
I think it doesn't have to be true. It can be.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But I think it depends on like the two people and what they want from the friendship or the relationship. I think it can evolve into something more because that kind of has happened with me.
Have you ever met someone on a night out that's evolved into a lifelong friendship?
Yeah, I have actually. One of my friends, Saint, we met maybe about 2 years ago, and we recently became closer within the last year. But I remember we met on a night out.
Was there a particular moment that you feel like your guys' relationship shifted from like nightlife friends into like a genuine friendship? Was there like a particular, oh wow, this is my friend.
Yeah, yeah. So I think our friendship shifted when Saint had opened up to me about someone that he was dating and like what their relationship was going through. There was like some trauma and he was a little hurt, and I was just there being like the caring and like person and nurturing
A
person
good
that
friend. You're
yeah,
being a good
exactly.
friend.
Exactly. So yeah, being a good friend, I just make him realize that it's not all him and why it wasn't working out.
Mm.
So I think that's when our like friendship kind of like shifted and we both just like started opening up more and it became bigger than like surface level.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? The things that kind of I noticed as you were telling the story, and I think as it relates to these foundational elements of good friendship, is there's two things that happen when your guys' friendship shifted. A, it was access. So it's like the vulnerability that he expressed to tell you what he was going through, to let you in. And then on the other end of that, the safety that you created through your guys' conversation and how you received that information that made him feel like he could trust in you. You know what I mean? And that's a good friendship. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's plain and simple. We're gonna take a quick break, but we'll be back with more Ty on Noel's Good Friend Show. I'm here with my good friend Ty. Today we're talking about parties and nightlife, and I thought that Ty would be the perfect guest because he hosts an event series called Ty's Third Thursdays, or as we lovingly call it, 3T. What inspired you to start Ty's Third Thursdays, and what kind of space were you hoping to create?
Yeah, so I was inspired to make Heisters Thursday because I began like hosting parties and stuff, and I enjoy like bringing people together, bringing the community together, providing safe spaces for LGBTQ plus. Oh, did I fuck that up?
The DEI
Yeah,
community,
the alphabet plus
the
community.
alphabet girls. But go on.
Yeah, but yeah, so and I feel like there weren't many spaces in Brooklyn that had like have these like type of events. I just wanted to have like a midweek, mid-month series to bring people together and decompress and have a good time
Mhm.
and get to know like new people.
How has hosting 3T changed your relationship with nightlife?
I feel like it definitely has like opened up like other opportunities for hosting gigs.
Hmm.
And I would say it is a lot less pressure when I'm like just the host for a party and it's someone else's party and like their brand and like their event. And I'm just like using like my face, my name and my brand to like bring people in. But, um, with 3T, I feel like I do a lot, behind the scenes too that people don't see with like the marketing efforts, reaching out to like liquor sponsors, collaborating with you too with like
Hmm.
designing the posters, which we appreciate so much.
Yes,
And
thank you.
also curating like a cocktail menu as well.
Mhm.
Well, it just takes less pressure. I'm very passionate about my party, but it has opened up other opportunities too.
Have you seen friendships or connections come out of 3T? And are there any stories that stand out?
Yeah, I have seen some connections developed in friendships from 3T. One that I can think of right now is one of the DJs, the general manager of a popular cocktail bar slash club in the Lower East Side, kind regards. He was at my party. He heard the DJ set, and it was he really did a great job. And they had invited him to DJ at regards, and from there, now he has like a residency there, and he plays there pretty much every single day.
Oh, that's what's up. Look at you putting people on.
Yeah. Then also know,
Mhm.
from like listening to your podcast, I know that you and Derek also have developed a friendship from.
Yes. I was actually just about to say that. Yeah, like me and Derek started being friends at 3T in a very similar way between you and your friend Saint. It's just like I just kind of like randomly just poured all this vulnerability and information to him, and he just kind of responded to it with a lot of grace. And so, yeah, I think one thing I appreciate about 3T as an environment is like to one end, the music is like lit enough for you to dance and have fun, but it can also like have these moments where it's a little bit more chill that a genuine conversation can actually happen. So I think you've curated a really like good space with it.
Thank you.
Of
Yeah, and I didn't know
course.
that about you and Derek either, and that makes you happy. So that's what I wanted different, like from 3Ts from like any other like party. Like, people feel like it's more like a mixer, and then like want people to like build genuine connections and like and just enjoy themselves.
Totally. Totally.
Yeah.
What's something unexpected you learned about yourself through hosting this party?
I would say I've learned to like. There's been like a few hiccups throughout the party. I've learned how to quickly pivot and find a solution and a little bit of problem solving, and also like just remaining like cool under pressure
Mhm.
because you do want it to like be like a successful event no matter what, and you want everyone to have a good time. So I just learned that I've like gotten better at that with like pivoting and like figuring things out.
Yeah, and I think that's really important, right? It's like you being the host of the party. It's like you kind of set I don't know, like you set the precedent over what kind of experience everybody ought to have. So it's like if you're having technical difficulties and then you look stressed and uncomfortable, it's going to make everybody else feel like
Right,
stressed
sure.
and uncomfortable. You know what I mean? So I think that remaining cool and like letting things roll off your back is something that I would say, anybody who knows you and has been to 3T would honestly attest to is like your ability to navigate that environment. So yeah, of course. So part of how you and I connect as friends is because I actually started making posters for 3T, which you mentioned earlier. Last year, I started teaching myself how to make posters, and I wanted to challenge myself by trying to do commissioned works. And around that time, you were just starting 3T. You were like a couple parties in. So my question to you is, What did you think when I first reached out to you to make a poster for 3?
My first thought, I'm happy that you reached out because I wanted, I know that you worked with like branding and I wanted to focus on, creating a brand for 3T that became more recognizable. So when people see it, they know that, oh, that's Ty's party flyer,
Mm.
or they kind of like tell, like kind of like how other like collectives and stuff. I'll use Poppy Juice for
Yeah,
example.
totally.
How they do, yeah, how they do like the illustrations on
Hmm. Hmm.
their party flyers. You know, whether you see the Poppy Juice written on it, you know it's the Poppy Juice flyer, because
Yeah,
of like the
totally.
style. So I was definitely looking for that with 3T, and so I was happy you reached out.
How has working on 3T posters together changed or deepened our friendship, would you say?
We've definitely gotten closer through it,
Totally. Yeah, I'd
and
say.
yeah, although like you are the artist, I feel like you do leave a lot of space for like to collaborate and like give
Mm.
input to. So
Yeah, to that, I mean, I was gonna say, like, as I have been working with you, it's like you constantly surprise me with your sensibilities. The other word for it is your taste factor. And party after party, you would just have ideas, these like loose parameters and that's what helps me as a creative is like having these like guardrails to work within. And I think every time you like give me feedback for the posters, it always like improves it. I feel like I tell you this after every party, like but like I've really grown so much as like a graphic designer ever since I started working with you. So thank you so much for constantly giving me that opportunity to do that. So
for sure, thank you. Yeah, I
yeah.
definitely I also enjoy. Feel like it's also allowed me to like feel like become like somewhat of like a creative producer,
Hmm.
creative
Hmm.
producer. I think I do have like a creative eye and certain things that like I have like a vision and try to like just be as detailed and like and explain like how or like or find like different examples of like the like type of aesthetic that I want.
Yeah. I think it's that balance between you have a vision, but you also trust someone's creativity. You know what I mean? Like I think keen awareness of like the expanses and the limitations of your own capacities, at least within this like creative collaboration, that I think really lends itself to kind of being generative. What advice would you give to someone who wants to turn a social connection into a creative one?
So I would advise them to find something like a creative outlet that you both have in common and
Mm.
want to expand on it, like how you and I work with creating the posters and me like just giving my input and like my vision with it too. So I would just find like an outlet and that you both have in common or both have like some knowledge of. Um
Yeah, I think it's interesting because, as you were saying, I was reflecting about our own connection, right? And what I would say is, to find somebody who is very good at something in the ways that you are good at something. Like, for example, like I, obviously have my own background in design. And I didn't know this before I reached out to you, but by the time I got to know you, I realized that you were really committed to mixology. Like I remember when we had a whole conversation, I was like, oh, you're very passionate about this thing. So I think that. So like I feel like whatever, like my skills in graphic design is like your how good you are at mixology or something,
yeah,
to one end. And the other thing is, I guess, collaborating with somebody who is in a similar place in their journey as you. So I think my journey in making posters was kind of coincidental to your journey in like event curation. Do you get what I'm
yeah,
saying? And
yeah,
so we
that's
were able to kind of like grow together
yeah,
and
that's
like,
for sure.
really like things that you learned from the last party, you applied to the next one. And things I learned from the last poster that we made would
Yeah,
apply to the next one. And so, yeah, I think it's been like a really beautifully iterative creative process that honestly I've really, really enjoyed. So,
yeah.
and I've appreciated what we've had, and I hope that other people can find creative collaborations in that way too. So, do you think there's a difference between a nightlife friend and a real friend?
So I would say there is. I've realized that there's some people who I thought were like a closer friend with me, but if
Mm.
it's not
Hmm.
us going out, then they don't really want to hang out with me.
Yeah.
Um, just like in a different setting other than like going out and like nightlife into like a party or
Mhm.
an event or something. But I don't think
How
it's
do you, how do you
outdated.
feel about that? How do you feel about that? Do you feel miffed, or do you feel?
honestly, I don't. It's hard to say. Once I realize what it is, then I'll just accept it because um, I feel like they also like might have like other things that I could benefit from if like going out and stuff. There's like being on a guest list or
Yeah,
just
totally,
yeah.
totally,
So
totally.
but
Yeah.
no, I know. Yeah, I know people who like we just like have that type of relationship. Like if there's an event or something that I'm hosting, um
Mhm.
like we barely hang out one on one. I think there are like different boundaries with like this nightlife friend and just like a closer friend, a good
Yeah, I
friend.
mean, to me, I think that like what party friends teach me is that, and I already believe this in other capacities, that not that friends aren't one size fits all. You know what I mean? Like, I
Sure.
think being able to meet somebody, and find a point of connection with somebody in these different contexts, I think that's a great thing. Not every single person that you meet has to be your good Judy booty that you tell all your biggest secrets to. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Um, because I think this might be a Brene Brown quote, which is like this kind of like self help book lady, but not everybody has the capacity to hold the weight of our story. You know what I mean? But nightlife friends are funny in that way because sometimes nightlife friends are able to hold that story for the night, right? The person that you kind of confide something really personal in, like just because you're that drunk, and
Right.
then you never talk to them ever again, but they were able to kind of hold you there in that moment. I think I really think that having a robust capacity to hold people at different distances and accept that and value and embrace that for what it is is a thing. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good friend thing. There you
Yes.
go. Finally, as our last question. Um, do you think the party is ever over?
Hmm. So I do and I don't. I would say that right now where I'm at, enjoying this and I enjoy going out, hanging with friends, and I am just like more so like living in the moment. But
Mm-hmm.
I do hope like 10 years from now that I wouldn't mind working in nightlife, but I just hope it's to like a different capacity. I hope instead of like being a party host or event curator, maybe to a point where it's at a space that I actually own
Mm-hmm.
or then I can like have more like say and like hands-on experience of what the type of environment that I want to provide. It will end eventually, but hopefully it evolves.
No, that's you pulled the words right out of my mouth. I think it doesn't have to be over, but I think it will naturally evolve because you evolve as a person. You know what I mean? I think fun looks different at, like we mentioned, right? Like at 18, at like a house party, to 25 through the bars and clubs. And, who knows what we'll be doing like in 30s, 40s, what fun looks like, right? But I think it's beautiful to have, in that question, like, is the party ever over? I think if I can wax poetic about it, it's like I don't think the desire to have fun and to enjoy your life ought to ever end. You should like endeavor to like enjoy life throughout the whole way. But what that means at every stage of your life should evolve with
Right.
your
Yeah.
changing needs. So yeah.
Yeah. It's gonna look different. Like it's like how I'm partying or going out now. It's not how it was, 21.
Oh, totally. Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, I'm not drinking Burnett's and like drinking Everclear out of like a jug of jungle juice. So thank, and I'm grateful for that. but but thank you so much for joining me today, Ty.
I'm free. I really enjoyed
Can
it.
you let the people know where they can find you, or if you want to plug anything, any upcoming
Yes.
events or anything?
Sure.
Mhm.
So you can find me on Instagram at ty.smith. And I have my monthly series that we talk about, 3T. So I have one, it's on the third Thursday, but you'll find it on my
Mhm.
Instagram.
Totally.
Yeah, and I'll be promoting it there.
And to you at home, I'm Noel, and this is Noel's Good Friend Show. Thank you so much for spending time with us, and thank you for being a good friend. Till next time.